Welcome back to the Direct Response Podcast. I'm your host, Travis Ketchum, founder of Campaign Refinery. I've got David Cartolano from Wealthy Inbox. What's up, dude?
Hey, how you doing, Travis?
Doing great, man. So this particular topic is one I'm actually pretty excited about, and I'm pretty sure you are too, because there's an age-old question about what the heck is an email list even worth? Like, what is the monetary value on the ones and zeros on that CSV sitting in your Excel? What is that worth? Right? Because this is such a nebulous question, but it does kind of predict what can you spend to acquire leads? What are you actually building? Is it really an asset? How big of an asset is it, right? There's all these sort of gray area question marks people think about when they hear the money's in the list. But it's like, how much money is in the list? That is potentially the multi-million-dollar question. So when you think about list value, what kind of things come to mind for you?
Well, for me, when I look at acquiring newsletters, right? For me, some investors will buy a newsletter, not for the brand, but for the contacts behind it. And those contacts themselves are valued based on their level of engagement, what type of industry. So list value, I kind of separate the list from the business itself. And I think about, okay, this spreadsheet of a bunch of emails, possibly with names and other information attached to them. How much is that spreadsheet worth? And I could go into this. I'm so excited to talk about it. So that's what I think. What's the spreadsheet worth?
Sure. See, from my perspective, that's kind of like the lowest common denominator on the value. That sets the price floor, right? Because the data itself is worth something. But then you also have, is it growing or is it decaying? Like, what are the overall health metric trajectory, right? Is there a brand associated with that data that carries some cachet that might be valuable in other ways? Like, does the brand leverage you into more profitable versions of an affiliate program, right? So instead of just, oh, I went and signed up for Share a Sale or whatever affiliate network, like, for example, Tim Ferriss. Let's just use him as a random example. He has a big email list, right? Like, that list not coming from Tim Ferriss is decidedly not worth as much. And Tim Ferriss can probably go negotiate a deal with a brand that he promotes to be maybe an equity stakeholder and a commission and recurring, all kinds of extras added on because he can move the needle so big at one time. Right. And so that brand carries extra value layered on top of the data itself. That's how I kind of look at it to start. But I definitely want to tell people right off the bat, because a big question I get all the time as an email service provider is, hey, I've got this list, that I acquired back in 2009. How much is that worth? And I want to start by saying, a list is only an asset if it is deployed.
Yep.
If a list is on the shelf, it is rapidly becoming a liability. Right? Because as anyone who's been in email knows, like, if you haven't been emailing it regularly, if they forgot who you are, forgot who the brand is, and then at that point, not only is it a CSV, it's a CSV who doesn't know who you are anymore. And there's all these deliverability challenges and costs and effort associated to revive a portion of that. And so not only is the whole thing not valuable, but there's actually, dead emails in there and all these other sort of booby traps tucked away in there that it's not, you can't get anything for that. In fact, you need to spend additional money to revive it, to turn it back into an asset. So if it's an old list you haven't mailed for a while, the answer is not even zero, it's negative. It's a liability until you fix it.
I cannot tell you, I've come across so many newsletters that they're like, yeah, we have 50,000 people on the list, but only 20% of them are opening and we haven't emailed them since last year. And we would like $50,000 for the newsletter. And I'm like, oh boy, surprisingly, they have not sold yet. I wonder why, right? So yes, a list itself, when you detach it from a business or with the Tim Ferriss example, when you detach it from the spokesperson of the brand and you detach it from the brands and the business itself, it slowly loses value because it's like, okay, who is going to, if I have this list of email contacts that is slowly decaying over time as people are not paying attention to the brand, what sort of offers is somebody who's going to buy this list going to make? What kind of success are they going to get with it? And from there, it's like, well, if the chances that they were to take this list and deploy it with their own offers or their own brands, if they're not going to make a lot of money from it, they're probably not going to pay a lot of money for it. I'm sorry. I don't believe There are some people that are list brokers, and they will sell an email list of 10,000 B2B contacts, and it's like, oh, from these VC firms, and they're super clean email addresses. I'm like, yeah, but these it's just a list.
And they
People
don't want to
don't
hear
know
from
who
you.
you are, and
They
they
don't want to.
don't want to hear from you. And they're like, yeah, but it's $5 a lead. That's market rate. It's like, yeah, but can I make $5 a lead off of that list? Really? Can I really do that? And if the answer is no, then it's just a CSV with emails. That's it.
Yeah. And so I think to help people sort of gauge where they are in the spectrum of the value, we should probably talk about some of the more obvious differentiators, right? So, of course, you have
Mm-hmm.
B2B and B2C, but 50,000 prospects is worth a significantly different sum than 50,000 known buyers,
Right.
right? Especially then you have the growth trajectory, right? Is it decaying? Is it growing? Perhaps a 25,000 list of buyers that's adding 100 new buyers a day is probably worth more than 50,000 prospects that are adding no new prospects and are losing 10% a day,
Right.
right? You probably pay a significant multiple for the smaller list of buyers that is growing than prospects who is decaying, right? So when you think about, okay, what is the intent, the buyer intent of this list, right? What is their buying power? What does their history say for their willingness to pay money for something, right? Because that obviously changes how quickly you can get to an ROI if you have a relevant product in that vertical to promote. Are they growing? Are they decaying? Is it B2B who tends to spend more money, or is it B2C who tends to spend less money? These are some big sort of rough cut, where am I in the stack and spectrum of how valuable my list may be. And that may be a guiding principle you use for how you want to grow your list in the future, right? You may decide, hey, instead of adding 1,000 prospects a day, I'm going to add 3 buyers. I would take that deal.
Mm-hmm. 100%. 100%. And I do want to clarify when you say buyers, because some people will say, yeah, the list is filled with buyers. It's like, yeah, they bought a candy bar 2 years ago from a Staples. Like, focus on when we say buyers, we're talking about if we're going to get a list in, let's say, the weight loss niche, right? If we have a list of 5,000 buyers, which is a very tiny list of
Customers. Let's,
5,000 buyers,
yeah, we can
these
even
are
use the word
people that have bought the weight loss products before. So those are the buyers that we want. We don't want 10,000 buyers of just freaking anything, because everybody buys stuff, right? Knock on wood, because we're in this country, like, people buy stuff. All right. So sorry, Travis, I'm gonna get you canceled. So so yeah, I just wanted to make that distinguishment, because a buyer is a buyer is a buyer if they've bought the thing before. So that is
from
something
you,
important.
from you.
Yeah.
Like because of
Yeah.
your recommendation, even if it's not your own product, like did they buy a product specifically because of your recommendation? Right, that's harder to track. But more often than not, if you are selling your own products and services, your own membership stuff, you will know because if you're in the old school like list mentality, you usually have these are the opt-in list and these are my customer list, right? These are the
Yeah.
people that have actually bought the thing. This is my buyer slash customer list. In our world now of modern ESPs, it's the tag, right? How many people do I have tagged as buyers? How many people then bought the upsell? Like what is my average card value? Those things start to matter, but honestly, people who've paid anything, who've pulled out their credit card, even bought a $1 thing, are infinitely more valuable than people who've never pulled their credit card out because they've never
Hmm.
established that relationship with the list holder as I buy from you. Because if they buy once, even for $1, their likelihood of buying again goes up dramatically. And so the
Yeah.
lead, therefore, is worth a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Totally
So
agree.
so how do we actually like come up with the number, right? Like this is all great. Like, okay, I understand where I am in the spectrum. I might be low, medium, high, depending on my vertical, depending on how many of them are buyers or whatever. If I'm growing, if I'm shrinking. But what is a good dollar amount to start even thinking
Mm.
about? Like I know you have some experience in the M&A of newsletters specifically. So what kind of numbers do you see and what attributes are associated with those ranges for like a low range and a higher range per subscriber amount?
Hmm. Yeah. So if I'd like to say, rule of thumb, the more broad it gets, the more cheaper the lead. However, there's other factors, but I don't want to confuse people. So if, let's say, you're doing a weight loss lead, period, across all variety, we're not talking like keto, paleo, hit workouts. No, 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 just weight loss lead, period. That's business to consumer. So those leads, I've seen people try and sell them for 10 cents a lead, for anywhere from 10 to 30 cents a lead for a big, giant, like anti-aging type industry. Those lead amounts start to get to the dollars once you start going to B2B, or it's a financial niche. Even though financial niche is like a business to consumer thing, if I'm looking at acquiring a gold newsletter and I want to add it to my financial news conglomerate, I would pay more for those people. Why? Because they have more money in their pockets. So I'm willing to pay more for that lead. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to spend it with me, but that's the sentiment I get from the newsletter world. It's like the more money they have in their pocket, the more you're willing to pay for them, even if they don't transact that money with you. In B2B, we kind of assume that people have more money in their pockets, which is strange, but we do, because B2B, there's higher niche, there's higher specialization, and those leads, now you're talking at like $1 to $3 per lead. If someone says like $10 a lead, ask yourself, like, are you really going to make $10 from that? I think that's a bad deal. So once it starts getting around like $5 a lead, that's when I'm like, I think I'm getting ripped off here. I think that's ridiculous. And for me, in my investment criteria, I don't buy newsletters for the lists. I buy the newsletter because there's a newsletter on top of the list. I think the list is important, but the business itself matters more to me as an investor. Some investors are the opposite of me. So in a long roundabout way, you're looking at a few dimes for a business to consumer lead. The more engaged they are, the more they've bought, you can get a few more quarters for them. B2B, you can throw down a George Washington, maybe a few more, depending on, again, how much money they have in their pockets and how engaged they are, and if they've bought more stuff. But you should really never get past Abraham Lincoln. You should never get to a Hamilton. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, just put what I'm saying into Claude and it'll understand the discrepancies. So yeah, Travis, that's my long roundabout answer.
Yeah, and so I would assume that math changes a lot more if they're, let's say, a paying subscriber for a newsletter.
Oh yeah,
Right, because that has a direct ROI. So you could start to look at, okay, what's the average retention and that kind of thing, and you might start paying a lot more. But that might be an easy decision because you're basically just arbitraging money. You're saying, okay, the average person stays on for 6 months or whatever the number is. I'm going to pay 2 or 3 months of subscription revenue to acquire this list. I'm basically, getting a 2-for-1 deal or whatever on money in, money out.
So that's something where you have to ask yourself, are you buying the newsletter where they have that subscription, or are you buying the list? Because if we're just taking a look and saying, well, this person on our list, they paid $5 a month for 5 months. Well, this lead is worth I almost said $25,000. This lead is worth $25, but it's like, yeah, I'm only buying the list though. So they're worth $25 to you, but there's no guarantee that they're going to get me that $25 on average, because that's your lifetime. That's your LTV, right? Mm-hmm. It wouldn't necessarily be my LTV. So again, once we start getting past Abraham Lincoln, I get cold feet. There might be investors out there that don't care, and they're willing to throw down all the dollar bills for all of those leads. I'm just not one of them.
Yeah. So one of the litmus tests I would use when evaluating a potential deal is, okay, if you look at your market and if you deeply understand who the people are and who your avatars are, and you find a data set that very, very closely resembles, and you plan to be able to communicate to them from the brand they're used to hearing from, which is a very key point, right? That's a bit of the business as opposed to just the data, because I don't really believe in cold outreach that much, to be honest. Solicited cold outreach from a brand or name you don't know, that's called spamming in 99% of the world. Anyway, if we can get past that, then it's okay. Lead is worth up to and not exceeding what your current cost of lead acquisition is. That's the way I look at it. Now, there is some value that you're getting it all at once, but you have to know some of the data is probably bad, some of it's probably old, a lot of it won't convert. right? The way that a brand new intent person clicking from an ad and opting in today would be. So that lowers the number for me a bit. But the absolute ceiling is, okay, if I know I can, go run a Google, a Facebook ad, a Taboola ad. It doesn't matter the network. If I can pay another newsletter to promote me and drive to my lead magnet, I know that I can pencil it out to, let's say $3 a lead on all my various forms of traffic. That sets a ceiling to me what a perfect avatar is worth. And then knowing that the recency of that avatar plays into it, then you start whittling down from there. And then that helps you sort of gauge what it is. And so that may also help you gauge what your own list is worth because someone else is probably doing the same kind of calculation of industry, your recency, your buying behavior, your engagement, right? All those kind of things. And if you know that, you've been acquiring these leads for $1.50, well, that probably sets a ceiling. You can't say, well, I acquired them for $1.50, but to you, they're worth $5, right? That math is, doesn't usually math so well.
Yeah. And it does come down to math at the end of the day. When you are purchasing a list, they charge you per subscriber. So that's something that if you are going to take someone else's cup of lemonade and pour it into your own, factor in the current cost of acquisition. Even though I know I'm repeating what you just said, but I think that's really important for people to understand. Don't just buy leads at a random value that you decide is good if you have a current business. Because I'm seeing this in my newsletter. I'm taking a look at the cost of acquisition. There's another newsletter that has the people that I want. It has my ideal customer, but I have to take a look at, okay, not only am I taking a look at it from like a business perspective of do I want this newsletter attached to my brand, I also have to look at the numbers and say, all right, well, there's 70,000 people opening on this newsletter. What's my current cost to acquire a lead now in my newsletter? Not the one that I'm looking to acquire. And I have to see if the numbers make sense. And it's a lot of math and it's not that fun. Math becomes a lot more fun though when you stick a dollar sign next to it. That's what I found. I wish I knew that in middle school. But yeah, it does come down to the cold hard numbers and realizing that most of the leads on that list, if you are offering them something different than what they're used to from the brand that they know and love, they're probably going to be less interested in you. So maybe bring up that CPL like a little higher if you decide to acquire that list. So that's like my word of caution.
CPO means cost per lead for those listening at home.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
hopefully this gives people kind of a rough idea on how to price it. I sort of use the middle ground as roughly $1 per lead, but that can swing obviously up or down depending on the things we talked about, on the episode today. And if you want to see some examples on specific industries, so you can actually run some of those formulas and come up with some numbers, because maybe you aren't paying to acquire leads and you're like, well, I don't even know where to start or where to look. We of course have an article linked down below that gives you some different examples from various different industries, different types, and some different criteria to use in your formula as you're coming up with a number that will help you base not only what your own list is worth, but what potentially other lists that you're looking to acquire might be worth. So definitely check that out down below. And if you have a high quality list that you want to make sure you're getting the most out of and you have the most engagement for, that is where Campaign Refinery does its magic sauce. We kick out the ones that are bad emails in the first place, that are risky emails in the first place, and we help make sure that you're on trusted infrastructure so that the maximum number of emails actually reach the inbox, therefore giving you the highest ROI on your efforts. And if you are in the newsletter game and you're looking to acquire or sell, David, what can they do?
You can go to wealthyinbox.news. I got a couple resources there for you.
Cool. Well, hopefully that was helpful and you come up with a realistic number, not just lick my finger, put it up in the air and see which way the wind's blowing on a Tuesday. And you can actually come up with a real number to make an educated decision on the tangible value of your own assets and assets that you're looking to acquire. So with that, we'll talk to you soon.